He set fire to an important set of math answers, and the professor threw himself forward without hesitation to save them. Seeing the professor in such a sorry state, Will couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. For someone as brilliant as him, this problem was as simple as 1 + 1, yet the professor could never reach Will's level. The professor regretted seeing a young man squander his talent. In truth, Will had his reasons. Before meeting the professor, every morning he needed his friends to pick him up for construction work, and at night he worked part-time as a janitor at MIT. One day, he spotted a math problem on the blackboard and solved it with ease, not realizing it was a high-level equation that only a handful of people in the world could crack. At an alumni event, the professor was told someone had solved the problem. At first, he didn't care, assuming it was just a reckless attempt. But when he walked up to the board and saw the completely correct solution, he realized a genius had appeared. The next day, the professor's class was packed with students eager to meet the math prodigy. But when he asked who had solved it, no one admitted to it. The professor posted another challenge on the board, a problem that had taken them 2 years to solve. Meanwhile, Will was getting into a fight on the basketball court. The police arrived, and in the chaos, Will kicked one of them, an action that would cost him dearly. He was released, but a court date was set. That night, he saw the new problem on the board and instantly wrote down the optimal solution. The professor, just stepping out, caught sight of Will and thought he was vandalizing. Will ran, but by the time the professor returned to the board, the problem had been solved. A problem that had taken him 2 years to crack, this janitor had solved in 20 minutes. Will quit his job at MIT and spent most of his time goofing around with his friends, all of whom carried the same aimless look in their eyes. Following the trail, the professor found a clue to Will in the building's management office. At that moment, Will was being interrogated, but he showed no fear and defended himself. The professor was certain he'd found a genius. This wasn't Will's first time in trouble with the law. He spoke of past cases where he'd been acquitted, but this time, the judge wasn't willing to let him go. Bail was set at $50,000. That's when the professor stepped in with an offer Will couldn't refuse. Under the professor's supervision, Will could be released, but only if he solved math problems each week and saw a therapist once a week. Will agreed and was released. The professor was thrilled with his mathematical performance, but before starting therapy, Will read a psychology book and uncovered the therapist's secret about his sexual orientation. Exposed, the first therapist gave up. The second one tried hypnosis, but Will still ran circles around him. Out of options, the professor reached out to his old classmate Sean, now a psychology professor. Sean tried to have an open, honest talk with him, but Will wandered around, dodging every question. As before, he shut himself off, refusing to answer. Claiming he'd read plenty of books, he dismissed the ones on Sean's shelf as trash. Sean simply nodded, saying nothing. Will pushed further, criticizing a painting as worthless. Sean didn't mind, even joined in analyzing what was wrong with it, until Will mentioned Sean's wife, saying he had married the wrong woman. That crossed the line. Sean told him to watch his words, and Will knew he'd finally found a weak spot.